It is my honor again to introduce a great
Always the same
person.
guy, and it's always
the
standing on
same
this
guy with
place
the
here.
same topics. Give it up for links and privacy scalable in the GNU-net.
And something like that. It's scalability. So, scalable and privacy respectful distributed systems, which I think is actually our only chance that we have to escape the cloud computing principle. So why do I believe that? Let's have a look. So, federated systems, decentralized systems usually try to connect each other, all of them, all the time, like so-called full mesh round robin. I had a chat with a Matrix developer a few weeks ago, and he said Matrix currently connects each server directly and makes all the exchanges directly. And the internet has become very broad in bandwidth. It has become very fast. Computers have become very powerful. So for even the Matrix system as big as it is now, it's still not running into performance problems. So that's good news. But it's just kind of postponing the problem because the architecture as such typically doesn't scale well. And if you try to have billions of people on it, like with Twitter or Facebook, then it's unlikely to work out this way. So as soon as you have large numbers, then you would start having less and less servers. So people would always try to find the server that works reliably, that is working all the time, while other servers are crashing. And so more and more people would start centralizing the servers and find themselves on a Google server or on a Facebook server. And then you kind of essentially lost the game again, like it happened for email. We all ended up on Gmail, not all of us. I don't have a Gmail account, but a lot of us. And a lot of us ended up on Facebook. So, well, in the case of Jabber, there was a period when everyone was ending up on Google. Now everyone is ending on CCC, unless they can no longer get an account there. But the pattern is always the same. Each time we start a federated system, it actually ends up being controlled by a big player later. So the old legend of federation, which is like decades old, it actually never really worked out. And still, for the users, it's a problem. Which server should I actually choose? Who can I trust? And even if I have my server in a safe place at home, how would others, etc., etc.? Or if I rent a server on a virtual machine, it's really cheap, but it can be observed and monitored, so it is not a safe choice against surveillance. Especially nowadays when the AMT stack can be attacked from any hacked Cisco router. So there's very hard to set up a server that cannot be accessed by the NSA these days. And why is it working so well for the other ones? Well, they have this cloud, and we just talk to the cloud, and the cloud is always very performant. So how does cloud computing actually do it? Well, in fact, cloud computing does a kind of distribution trees as well. You can call it database replication. Well, that was like 10 years ago when people would actually use databases and replicate databases and have caching and all of that. Nowadays, cloud computing actually uses push technology and pushes all the database changes to all the nodes that need to know. So it's actually using a multicast strategy, but it's a simplified strategy because all the nodes are owned by the same company. There's no complexity about who's allowed to get which kind of data. There's no encryption. You can simplify a lot. And whereas in a distributed system, we actually need to do the same kind of architecture and just add the little bit of extra to be on the safe side for privacy. So the essence to solve the scalability challenge is to build multicast trees. It's actually a very old knowledge because we used to have it with IRC, we used to have it with NNTP, and we have it in tools like BitTorrent, kind of similar. And instead, all the newer federated systems, they are not doing this anymore. Like Jabber ignored the problem. Matrix isn't dealing with it because it's not a problem yet. Psych used to do multicast, but Psych is this protocol up here. But we later realized that the federated architecture would still keep us from providing the kind of privacy and security that we want. We were still using the certification system, the existing one, the TLS, and there were so many loopholes that would break privacy, especially the metadata protection is hard to achieve in a federated system, where you just talk to your own server and then you don't know what happens behind that. Is it really going to arrive on a different server in a protected way? Who knows? And there are so many ways to attack the communication between servers. So we prefer to do a distributed system where the servers in between do not even know what they are doing. And we found that actually an anonymous multicast can be implemented. There has been research, I'll mention the paper names, and that the social graph can be used, the social graph among people who knows who, can be used to protect against the kind of Sybil attacks. We already have Sybil attack protection in GNU-net because of the network size estimation strategy, and we can additionally use Secure Share social graph for additional protection. And we can also have a different multiple strategies for onion routing using the social graph. But getting back to the actual papers, so in '98 there was already a paper that suggested how to do multicast trees and maintain anonymity. In 2003 we had an actual implementation which unfortunately is only available on request, and I didn't make the request, so I don't know. And this one is particularly promising. I think GNU-net is actually looking into this one for implementation. So we're actually looking at this work. GNU-net is not reinventing wheels. The essence of Secure Share and GNU-net is look at the best ideas that the world has invented and then get it in there. So that might be something that will get implemented in the coming years. So what are the typical problems if you do a distribution strategy? Well, you could be doing one with high latency, and actually IPFS kind of does it, Freenet does it, and even GNU-net itself with its file sharing or file system module does exactly that. But high latency is something that doesn't always make fun. So a lot of applications like to have, in particular Twitter, is not fun if the Twitter message arrives an hour late. You want, if you have 1 billion subscribers at of a Twitter stream, you still want to get it in real time. You might ask, but why are we doing Twitter on an anonymity technology? Because the fact that you're interested in Christopher Bieber's tweets should be private. That's what we believe in. Yes, Christopher, whoever, any large personality will tweet to a lot of people, and it might be visible roughly how many people are interested in somebody's tweets. But still, each one of them has a privacy to keep it secret that they're actually subscribing to Sasha Grey as well. high latency is not a solution to our problems. Another problem with most of these tools is they're not protecting anonymity. So that's Secure Scuttlebutt is really interesting. If you have heard of it, it's a distributed Twitter replacement, and it's pretty advanced in many ways. But it will not protect your metadata, who you're interested in, who you're communicating with, and even if you're having an encrypted conversation, everybody can see that you're having an encrypted conversation. And that would be similar with other tools if we were doing a distributed Twitter using other tools like ZeroMQ. And another possibility is to use existing anonymization technology. So somebody did a Twitter-like clone over I2P that was like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and it died. The project has disappeared and it's not happening. Also, the idea of doing BitTorrent over I2P, which would be a proof of concept. Well, some people are kind of using it. It's not forbidden, but it didn't really break through. Like, it's not like we're all suddenly using I2P and doing BitTorrent because it works so well. So something didn't really work out. I guess it's the scalability, because if the anonymization layer is on top of the scalability, then the scalability actually doesn't work. So what we have is the choice of trade-off. So are we going to accept high latency, or are we going to accept that it's going to take a lot of bandwidth, or are we going to accept that we're not getting anonymity? We actually wouldn't like to have to choose. So the multicast layer that we would like to have in GNU-net would combine different methods, would learn from the best ideas to make it a pluggable system that you can choose the kind of properties that you need for your application. Similar to what we said before in the previous presentation about the anonymization strategies. So you can combine different anonymization strategies with different scalability properties. And we can have use cases from very private chat rooms to super popular Twitter kind of feeds. So if you're still interested, then I'll add a few slides regarding SecuShare, which is using or would be using the multicast layer in the long run for high scalability, high popularity feeds. We're using the good old Psych protocol in a refurbished and renewed way for some reasons that actually in the meantime we haven't found any syntax or protocol which is actually more efficient in the characteristics that we're looking for. If you want a binary protocol, then there are binary protocols which are just slightly more efficient than Psych, just slightly. But if you actually want an extensible protocol which has rich semantics in a almost XML kind of style, and you want it to be still text-based and have the advantages of a text protocol, then Psych is pretty smart because it's at least 4 times faster than XML or JSON. It's actually, in most cases, a lot more faster. It's still text-based. It's actually friendly for text templates, which means you don't always have to create the text that you're going to send. You can just use a pre-formatted string and just fill in the data if you know that the data is not going to break the protocol. And so other protocols can be, at least the binary ones like CBOR, can be close, but they are not. They don't have these friendly properties. Here's a comparison of speed. And the small numbers are in milliseconds are how fast the implementation is. And you can see that libpsych is the C implementation of the Psych syntax. And you can see that libpsych is extremely fast on different kind of use cases, whereas JSON is a lot slower and XML is usually even more slower. But actually it depends a lot on what kind of use case and what kind of data structure you're delivering. Still, yeah. So we still don't understand why the world isn't using Psych for all kinds of things, because Psych is actually a very efficient syntax. This is what a Psych message looks like when it's not compacted, which means the underscore keyword can be compacted to a single letter. So it is almost as compact as a binary protocol, but it has many of the advantages of text protocols, because you can extend the semantics of each element by adding an extra underscore something, and you can do it as you need it in your implementation. So yeah, this is a typical way. On the top, it would include the public key of a GNU-net node. It can send to a certain target on that, not in a GNU-net node, on a GNU-net ego. So an identity, a person. So you send a message to a person. You can specify what kind of context this message is in. You send a text body, or can be a binary body. You can deliver a binary image, for example, as a parameter, and you can also include a state modification, which in this case says, I have become a fan of the Shitty Beatles, in case you have ever heard of the Shitty Beatles, a famous band from Wayne's World. So SecureShare essentially uses a lot of publish subscribe subscriptions for all kinds of people. We discussed that in a previous talk about the modeling of the social modeling of SecureShare. So the useful thing about that is we have a personalized collection of subscription, and that gives us a personalized view of our social network and of the profile of the people that we're looking at. So my mother sees a different profile of me than a person that I met on the street or an old friend. And it's probably safer that way. It's actually socially more relevant, because that's how social interaction works. People have different views of each other. So it's more advanced than the plain Facebook approach. And that alone gives you a whole choice of applications that could be done, not just secure social networking, but all kinds of podcasts and dynamic websites that are pushed to you instead of you fetching them. Mailing list, groupware, editing, all kinds of things. And and the fact that you have a social graph, you can always, each tool that you use, you're using it with people, not with IP numbers, not with profiles on on some server in a cloud. You're doing it with people. Details. And 5 years ago, I made these nice, funny slides suggesting which kind of tools we would be replacing. So if in the basic elementary SecureShare level, if we manage to get GNU-net working and we have basic messaging happening between people, then we're already attacking the business models of ICQ. Okay, these days you would say WhatsApp and Signal, and Gmail and Hotmail and file sharing tools like that. And as soon as we have advanced social graph modeling, then we're attacking all the social graph institutions. Well, we have some old-fashioned ones here in this listing. And actually, since media transfer is already not a problem, then we would also be attacking the YouTube business model or SoundCloud. It gets interesting when we start doing applications on top of distributed social networking. Right, you can see in only 5 years, these slides have become really old, because now you would see Uber and Airbnb, and they didn't exist back then. But still, yeah, these are the kind of things that one could do as a plugin, And then the question is, do we like proprietary plugins? No, we want free software plugins. So all these applications would actually be free software applications for free people that get to find a couch, sleeping on a couch at a friend's place, or find a friend of a friend that is going to drive you through town for a few euros, or things like that. So we can implement things like Airbnb and Uber without having actual centralized capitalism in it. And it goes on, if you allow for sharing the location, for example, then you can do applications where people find out that they're in the same city, and maybe they find out they are in the same street, and so they can meet. Things that we could be doing, and everyone is free to decide for themselves how much privacy they need to hide from their own friends, which is completely different from the privacy discourse that we have regarding centralized corporate capitalism and governments. So that would be quite exciting to attack all those business models. I even added Oracle because I think a lot of SQL databases make no sense once we have a platform like this. So thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
Let's go ahead.
How will you finance developing all that? You're gonna attack business models which generate billions of dollars in revenue, so you could get some of those dollars.
Well, we think there are other business models which are legitimate and ethical, and the ones that are centralized are actually not ethical. And so we are happy to invite idealists who see it the same way to produce solutions that run this way. And also we are suggesting to politicians, to political parties, to the European Commission, we are suggesting that that business model should actually not even be legal. And that's why a whole dimension of other business models would actually get established the moment that the other one is actually not an option.
Any more questions?
Yeah, so what's like, can you hear me?
No, it's just that the orientation of the...
Okay. So what's like the easiest app or like to bootstrap the network, to bootstrap the peer numbers? Like, is there like a killer app that we could focus on, like a chat or like a easy app to bootstrap the network?
I actually don't know, because as soon as we fix the last bugs from GNU.NET that are blocking exactly that step, then anybody who can write up a Python script or a shell script using the GNU.NET command line tools can already be doing tools that are extremely useful for other people. And it's really not a big step to do a user interface or to... So a lot of amazing applications are just a small step away. We just need to figure out what's going wrong in GNU.NET, or has been going wrong until now. Maybe it's fixed, maybe we'll find out next week. So actually next week we hope that we'll take that step and have basic applications on GNU.NET running. And then anybody who's sitting here could be doing a killer application that might be doing big stuff. We have plans to provide for a Facebook replacement that is easier to use than Facebook, that is nicer than Facebook, and it's ethically viable.
Okay, then my questions, huh?
Yeah, go ahead. Give me your questions.
Let's get technical for a little while. I would like to have a look at the Psych syntax again. Why this syntax? Why not others? XML, JSON, RDF.
Well, the answer RDF is XML, right? So the answer regarding XML and JSON, you can see it here in the numbers. It's just, I mean, we're thinking about running these things on Raspberry Pis and all kinds of equipment on old smartphones. So I wouldn't want to lose power and energy for something unnecessary. And since we're reinventing the whole thing anyway, why be compatible to a past that didn't satisfy certain requirements? So there have been historic mistakes in the way XML has been designed in '98. There have been historic mistakes in how XMPP was done, and the idea of just escaping to JSON was kind of like practical, but a JavaScript notation syntax is not exactly optimized for performance. In fact, all the escaping and all the you have so many special characters that you have to make sure that do not appear in the data before you can send the data, right? Or you have to escape it with backslashes and all that, or you have to encode it with a base64 encoding. So all of that appears in those numbers. So as soon as something complicated happens, you have an overhead that you have to pay for. I understand that all the IoT developers right now do not care because they just want to be fast to the market. And so they are even agreeing on standards like that. But we are doing something completely fresh. We don't have to oblige to anybody else. So we can pick something that is actually more efficient.
Last question. You said the revolution is gonna... Oh, there's one. But let me go first, please. You said the revolution is gonna start next week when the last bug is fixed from the GNU-net.
That's my hope now.
Okay. Where will you televise the revolution? How do we stay up to date?
It's happening at the Onion Space in Berlin from 2nd to 9th of January. Especially on the weekend, we'll focus on the things on the weekend. And whatever happens there, we'll publish it on secureshare.org. We'll probably also have something on GNUnet.org. And we have mailing lists. We have other kinds of channels to follow for now. And soon, hopefully, you can subscribe to the news that is happening on SecureShare using SecureShare. Or at least a GNUnet tool that kind of uses the pub/sub principle.
Cool.
Is there a point on the roadmap where I can reach a GNU-net application from my actively running JavaScript in my browser tab somehow? Or is there a model for that?
Christian mentioned it before, that that RESTful APIs are being done for several of the modules. So several of the modules where you might find it reasonable, I'm still critical about these approaches, but where you might find it reasonable to have a JavaScript application run in the browser and do interaction with servers, then you can use RESTful APIs and do exactly that. So for other people that love to work in that direction, they can quickly hack something up and using that method. So it also probably something that a lot of smartphone applications would be doing because that's the way they work.
Thin clients.
It's not like RESTful HTTP is actually very efficient, but it's on a level that I understand that we're talking about a level of efficiency that for most people is no longer important. But yeah.
Back again to Psych, I haven't never heard about that protocol. So since when started the development?
Psych, there was a binary Psych prototype in '94, and then in '95 the first version of the syntax was defined, and there was an implementation which was
And is there also an RFC?
No, there are the specifications on the Psych website, and it never became an RFC, and the ITF decided to make XMPP a standard, and kind of didn't make sense to also. I didn't follow up, and nobody else did. So
Maybe it's just a marketing problem.
yeah, could be. In fact, we did the statistics much later to find out that it's actually a good syntax. We only found out later, so we didn't know at the time.
Okay, thank you.
Just a sec. Is there any translation from the Psych syntax into something more readable like JSON or XML or something, so that we can understand which data structure you're trying to
It's pretty simple to do conversion tools. I'm not sure if we actually have any, but you can use libpsych and just drop the same thing into a JSON library, or we actually that's how the benchmarks have been done. They were converted, so it's not difficult. And but ironically, if you get used to Psych, it's much more readable than JSON or XML actually. Because JSON is a lot more verbose and XML even more. So yeah, so you need to parse more with your eyes.
Would it be possible to share all the data there is? Files, text, movies.
Well, for binary data, it's not always useful. I mean, Psych can have a trivial binary transfer by saying the next 8 megabytes, etc., are binary data, and then you send binary data.
Is it that easy?
It's just like HTTP. I mean, when Psych was designed, it looked at the advantages of SMTP, of RFC 822, and the advantages of HTTP. It learned from all the good ideas in there, and then it tried to go beyond, and the things that we added to Psych, we didn't think that it was so spectacularly new. I mean, we just logically tried to make a syntax that can do a few things more. And for some reason, in the following 20 years, nobody did the same.
Okay, then one last question from my side. You know, I always have a last question.
Excellent.
So you have a radical approach on the syntax. I understood that. That's pretty cool, and the numbers show it. You're radical on the unicast versus multicast issue. Is there even a third thing that you can say it's going to be amazing because we are not reinventing, but learning from all the mistakes in the last 20 years?
Okay, scalability. I guess the way we combine anonymity technologies and encryption should make it quite amazing once we actually have the implementation. So the early versions of SigShare will be not specifiable if it's safer than Tor. Like it's like comparing apples and pears. Like GNU-net already, if a large number of GNU-net nodes is running and it's using non-deterministic routing and stuff, it's not trivial to say that it's less secure than Tor's onion routing or more secure. We don't know. That would take research to find out. And if we later even add onion routing, then it's pretty obvious that it's going to be more secure. Even more things. Let me think. Luigi, tell me something that okay. It doesn't right now. It doesn't come to my head, but actually, it's a lot of stuff. Actually,
Where are you sitting during the Congress? Where's the assembly?
it's right around the corner. We have a secure share table close to ChaosWest, but also the GNU-net. Thank you. The GNU-net people. They have a table in the Valholland next to the Valholland Stiftung. It's very quiet there. It's kind of I think tomorrow we'll probably be hanging out up there and networking with those people. And we're coming back on the 29, that's Friday. We're coming back here because we're going to have several talks and a lot of more in-deep and more exchange and more with other developers and more kind of not so much frontal talks. It will be more like panels and discussions.
I see you're very
So
active.
we'll be back here.
I'm looking forward to it, my friend.
Great.
Yeah, good, let's do it right. Okay, since there are no further questions, is this the last talk for today?
I think so.
Okay.
So
that-
I can start rapping now. Oh, no, I can just beatbox. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so this is it.
That's it. This is day one. We would have another slot for you if you want. Slot for you if you wanted to have a talk. You can hand the presentation papers to me or to Carsten back there. We do have some free space tomorrow too. So please go ahead. Don't hesitate. If you have a cool idea, some kink you want to present, just be very emotional about it and intelligent and beautiful, just like Lynx always is. Be on time to present, and the ChaosWest stage team will be more than happy to make this possible to you. I thank the team at the back. This is Zach and Carsten and Voigt and Michi and all the other people. And the next thing up is at midnight, the Klangteppich will have DJs here playing amazing sound. We'll make some more atmospheric stuff, and then we can hang out and have a good time, as we always do on the Congress. Stay tuned. Bye.